we'll get rolling. Sorry? Well, they're just find some vacant chairs. I think there's a vacant one over there, so go ahead. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to help you out right away. You can grab a brown chair in the back for now, if you want. I'm still talking, so there's microphones. Okay. Okay. Is microphone on? All right. Well, welcome to Slide into Spring, Calgary's Trombone Day to celebrate International Trombone Week, which, by the way, starts today, April 3rd to 10th, 2022. It's great to see you. I'm going to start with our elders who have shared that it is important to acknowledge the land where we gather and the first peoples who traditionally lived here. It shows respect for people, their contributions, and their ways of knowing, which are reflected through the stories and songs that have lived on this land for thousands of years. We are making this acknowledgement at the beginning of our gathering today to further demonstrate our commitment to work together as a community in laying the foundation for reconciliation through education. We would like to acknowledge the traditional territories and oral practices of the Blackfoot Nations, which includes the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai. And we also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina and the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. Welcome back. My name's Nathan Gingrich. I'm the one who's been sending out the emails. This is our 9th annual event and our first in-person event since 2019. So we welcome you, whether you are here in person or joining us online. We've got cameras there. Okay, this is a time to reboot and to get back to playing and learning together. So the next few hours are going to be reconnecting, some playing, some performing, and some time to check in and ask questions about anything trombone. Parents and supporters, just so you know, we'll have sort of a mini concert at about 7:30 p.m. So if you felt like you wanted to come back in a little bit, just that's a heads up. This next little while is going to be warm-ups and rehearsal kind of things, okay? And so we are going to begin, like any trombonist would start their day, with some warm-ups. So I'd like to thank our dear friend Jim Scott, Principal Trombone at the Calgary Philharmonic, for joining us and leading us through these. Thanks so much.
A quick thanks to Nathan. Some of this music, when we talked about things like the anthems, I thought I was going to do them, and I had gotten as far as downloading them, and suddenly I'm getting finished arrangements emailed to me before I've had a chance to do much more than that. Nathan does so much to make this happen. So maybe before we start, can we all give a all right, you all have a copy of the warm-ups. Again, thanks to Nathan for providing these. These are a nice idea. We're going to change them a little bit just to provide places to breathe. And before I play these, I just saw a really interesting podcast that some of you may know Joe Alessi from the New York Philharmonic. Quite a star of the instrument. And in this podcast, he talked about warming up and just daily routines, and he just said, every day he thinks about, he goes back to the beginning. It's every time he picks up his horn and plays warm-ups, it's like he's starting to try and become a great trombone player again. And I think that's a great attitude to put to these, so that we don't just play through them and we're just done with them kind of thing. It's like to make our face tingle. But to actually think about making a great sound and everything. So this first warm-up, the long tones, is meant to be played in fifths with the bass trombones on the low part, and the tenor trombones in the upper part. We should play a nice kind of medium dynamic, sort of mezzo forte, nice and warm and full, and we'll get a big sound if we play really together and really in tune. And I'm going to suggest we take a pause, and I need these, at 1678, after bar 18, I believe it is, 17, something like that anyway, where the low E and the B. We'll just kind of reset there. I'm also going to suggest that why don't we avoid using F attachments until we actually need them. I think that bass trombone players and even tenor trombone players who get one of these kind of forget where 6th and 7th are, unless you actually can't reach it, because we may have some young players here that really can't reach that and do have a trigger. So absolutely, in that case, you get a pass. But all the rest of us, let's try and remember where 6th and 7th are. All right? So, nice and full and warm. I'm going to count it in. I'll try and maybe do a little counting during the rest bar, just to try and keep us in the same time zone. All right? Nice andante kind of tempo. 1, 2, 3. So before we go on, since we're going to go into the low range, let's open up our lungs a little bit, and let's just take a few nice big breaths together, okay? So I'm going to count 4 again in that same tempo. We're going to take a nice big breath on 4 and blow out for 4, okay? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. That's what it should feel like when you're playing. Nice and relaxed and easy. Let's try for that, okay? Let's go on. From starting the B flat and E flat, obviously triggers are now fair game for those who are playing that low part, right? All right, so let's do that to the end, okay? 1, 2, 3. Quite good. We have a lot of accomplished players here. You know, we always have a mix of everyone from, you know, their second or third week on the one, to people that have been at it forever, aren't they? I think that's one of the best things about this day. All right, lip slurs. I'm going to suggest a very small edit to this, and that is that we're going to put a fermata on the bar lines in between them. We're going to take a second so that everybody can get a good breath before we do the next one. All right? It'll kind of be, I won't guarantee it's exactly this, but it'll be kind of like an extra beat. silence, thereabouts. And I'll try and make it obvious, okay? Let's try it. Starting first position. All right. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I'm trying to find a tempo that's easy for the young folks and that it doesn't make all of us old folks get winded here. So, all right, so we're going to try and find that nice middle tempo there. But like I say, same thing on this one. We're going to take a little bit of time at the double bars, right, to give us a chance to get a breath, and it'll be roughly another beat, okay? Like that, for instance, okay? 1, 2, 3. One thing I always like to point out about lip slurs, be really careful that when you start doing all your slurs, you can't possibly slur the first note. People kind of forget to attack sometimes. It's actually really okay to attack, and it's actually a good idea to breathe, start with the ta, and then slur, okay? So that's something to keep in mind in this next set here. And this one, I'm gonna go for an easier edit. And that is, the whole notes are just going to be dotted half notes, okay? So dotted half notes, so we put a rest at the end to give us a chance to breathe, okay? Starting in 7. All right? About the same time. 1, 2, 3. I didn't do so well there, so let's try it again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the next set is all about tonguing. And I would like to do a mix of different kinds of tonguing because we need to practice different sorts of tonguing. And normally if I'm warming up first thing in the day, the first tonguing I normally do is legato tonguing because I feel like that's the closest to the slurring and everything I've been doing already. So I start there, and I always try and think about keeping my air moving like I did when I was playing the long notes, and just let my tongue just dance along that air stream, not have to work super hard, just keep that air going, and just create a little bit of like that. So let's try for that. The B flat major descending scale, we'll play da 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 da, and we're not going to add extra time, but make sure don't hold a full quarter note because then there's no way you're going to possibly make it in time for the next bar. Okay, and about that speed. You don't want to go too slow. Okay, 1, 2, ready, go. Slower. So we'll be careful about that, but at the same time, also be careful of people that jump ahead of the group. One thing I've learned at years of playing in good ensembles is that dragging's bad, rushing's even worse because that means you're in as the person next to you is just finishing their breath, which means they can't play anymore, too. So let's try and play as a group. Really listen carefully, okay? And watch, because it's just a scale, and it's with a repeated rhythmic pattern. Now this next one, C major ascending, we're going to play this with staccato tongue. And I like to think of that as just being just a little more, just put some point on what you were doing when you played the legato tongue. If you were playing da da da, here we go, ta 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 ta, but you're going to keep lots of flow in that air. If you have to start and stop for every single note, that's not super efficient. Instead, make the space by being, clear with your attack. Ta 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 ta, like that, or whatever it is. Ta 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 ta. Okay, I have to remember that pattern because I can't look at it and look at all of you. All right, let's give that a try. 1, 2, ready, go. Because this is something that's probably going to come up when we start doing the trombone choir stuff. And that is, be careful not to play the 8th note too long in a pattern like this, because that's the place you breathe. That's the only possibility of a place to breathe. So you're going to have to try and make sure to get off of those to grab a breath. Otherwise, the only way to breathe is to leave out notes or to go out of time. And again, we want to stay in time. So that's your spot. So ta, 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 ta. So that gives you space to just grab a quick breath. Want to try that again with that in mind? Let's see if we can make that better. 1, 2, ready, go.
us to play it, do you?
Talk to Nathan.
Oh.
Yeah, that actually would have been that would have been a good addition. I could have added that. But I didn't think about it. All right. How are we doing for time? I don't want to.
I think we're okay.
Okay. If we need to cut some things, I'll let you keep the clock. Okay. Then maybe we won't do all of these flight studies. Why don't we just do the last one, which is the last one on this page here, right?
E flat major?
E flat major. Okay? And we're going to play this in the legato style. Da da dee da 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 da. And breathe as you need to, okay? You can break the slur to breathe. But otherwise, let's keep it going, make it nice and beautiful, okay? Da 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 da. Da 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 da. That's a good one. Okay? I'll give you 2 bars. I'll give you 2 bars because we're in 2 here, right? So 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's see if we can make it smoother. Okay, I hear lots of clean technique, which is fantastic. Along with the clean technique, let's see if we can get a little more sustained and make it more beautiful. Okay, same tempo. 1, 2, ready. You can be just as clean with your technique, but sustain the notes. And just back off a little bit on how much articulation you do, so you can keep it having a more legato sound. All right, the last thing is this F major scale. And I was looking at this, and I was thinking the easiest thing to do with this is to, there's 2 4 bars there with half notes. We're going to make them into 4 4 bars with the half note and add 2 beats rest, just to give everybody a chance to breathe before each scale. Okay, so we're just going to stay in 4 4 time the whole time, and we're just going to add 2 beats rest. Bum, bum. And we're going to play this in between what we've been doing. We're going to play in a broad style. Da, 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 da. Like nicely placed notes.
Do you want us all to play the lower octave, or can we play the higher octave if we want?
There is no higher octave.
The problem, there is no higher octave here, right? We're on the page, whatever, the last
F
page.
major scale over 2 octaves.
So we just keep continuing, right? So, and it keeps going up so there's no upper octave.
So
It's this page.
I know, but it's like, because it starts on like the low F.
That's right.
Right.
And then there's the scale on like, that starts on the middle F. And
We're going to play them all.
We're going to play them all. That's the thing. We're going to start at the beginning and go all the way through. Okay, so we're going to start at a low F and go all the way up to the last one. So everybody's going to play all these Fs, including the bass trombones have to play the high one, and all the tenor trombones have to suffer and do the low one as well. Okay, let's give this a try.
Equal opportunity.
So in the broad style, da, 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 like well-placed da tone. 1, 2, ready, go. Rest and. So that's our warm up. So thanks for. It is really great to be back doing this. So it's great to see everyone. All right, we're gonna hand this over to Gareth. Then, right?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jim.
Oh,
Thank you, Jim.
And, I'll just add that you're now going to need all the other pieces that you've got along with you. So those 2 anthems and those 2 ragtime pieces. And we'd just like to give a warm welcome to Gareth Jones, adjunct professor for trumpet, director of wind bands at the University of Calgary, regularly with the Calgary Philharmonic. Thanks so much for being here tonight. We're really thrilled you're here. So,
pleasure to be here.
Hand for him.
Hello. It is great to see so many familiar faces. This is great. And so nice to be able to actually do this again. Right. Now, so we've got the 4 pieces, the 2 anthems and the 2 rags. The rags are 3 parts, of course, and the anthems are 4 parts. Now, were we going to divide into like parts?
So we haven't done any kind of special dividing like that
Okay.
yet. I mean, we're at your whim as far
I
as.
think that might give everybody more confidence in there.
Okay.
Who's planning on playing first parts?
Hopefully not too many hands.
Who's planning on playing second parts? Okay. And if there are 4 parts, who is planning on playing the third part? Okay. And if there are 4 parts, who's planning on playing the fourth part? So I think this is, if the 4 people go play the third part when we just have 3 parts, I think that's going to work out pretty well. Our numbers are fairly even. So why don't we do, if we shuffle our seating so that we're all, I think it would be best if we're seating together. So if we do 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. Just do them in.
The old guy didn't have to move. So, 4th's over on this side.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on this, but I guess I'll go this. I just kind of was following the herd, and everyone sat down and I got confused. Oh no, I guess I gotta start one. Here comes trouble.
I'll warn you, the floor is tilted. Let's sit right there. Sure.
I'm kind of nervous about this, stand situation.
Gave up on the stand for the 4th, so.
I'm assuming there's. This is a little less.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's okay. I was
Yeah. Are you third then?
On your way there?
not at all. No, that's okay. No,
No, no, it's okay. What is he? He's fourth. Wasn't one over there?
4's over there.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Keep all one right as COVID. I'm gonna play third. We just played Star Wars and Red Valkyries on this. Did
And then that's right. And then we'll have a short break after, so there's a little bit of wiggle room there. And then we'll do some Q&A stuff. So all of those 2 items are kind of wiggle room. Yeah. So if we go 45, that's what we do. That's right. Yeah. Sure.
All right. Let's start with a tune that hopefully we know. Let's start with O Canada. And I want to, first of all, just play our very last chord of O Canada. Once we're all settled.
Yeah, I'm putting up the right foot.
Not E flat.
I may have sent him a draft in G.
Oh. Would have been a good trick.
I was
Be
going to say, that'd be
naturals.
cruel to send everyone different stuff.
Which is supposed to be the great part of
Let me just hear our very last note of O Canada. Can I just hear our thirds? Just our thirds. So we're a little bit outnumbered, so you guys can play. Hands up again. Who's playing fourth?
fourth over.
Who's playing third? And who's playing second? Perhaps, are there a couple of you second players that would be interested in playing third just for the 4-part pieces?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. Let me hear that last chord again. That's going to be a better balance, I think. So, we're switching over to third for the 4-part. Continue to play second on the 3. Okay, let's try from the beginning, okay? When we've got dark quarter eighth notes, let's just put a hair of space in there. Bum, bum, bum. Just a little bit of space before the eighth note each time. Once again, from the top. watch our rhythm there, dotted 8/16. Watch that we're not doing straight eights. And then seconds in measure 19. Watch the B natural at the end of the bar, so the natural carried through the last note on the end of 4. It is so nice to be using a score again where I can do this. My first rehearsal back after all the online stuff, I'm looking at the score going, right, no, that doesn't work. This. Let's start. Pick up into 13, please. Pickups to 13. First pickup into 17 dotted 8/16, and then the pickup into 18 straight eighths. I think it'd be nice to put a little bit of dynamics into this. Does everybody have a pencil? Let's go down to mezzo piano on the pickup into measure 13, and fourths, let's do a diminuendo through measure 13. And then,
That's a big pencil.
This is my pencil case.
measure 20, fourths, let's put a crescendo in that bar. Measure 21, everybody else, when we come back in, let's do forte on measure 21. So let's start right on that actually, let's start at the beginning of measure 12 so we get the diminuendo and in the fourths. Measure 12. watch our E flat, hearing a couple E naturals sneaking in. Let me just hear that section starting at 17 for the second time. Okay, well, let's get into our rags, and let's start with the strenuous light.
Which is anything that involves leaving home. Pardon? Which is anything that involves leaving home.
He's not really a first. The original scan.
No, no, no.
VA had our photos just for this.
So just a couple things before we start into this one. At measure 5, when we come down to the mezzo forte, really exaggerate the dynamic difference, really come down on that. And then in both this and sycamore, we've got a lot in the accompaniment parts, we've got a lot of the boo-da, boo-da, boo, really watching the legato, staccato articulation, making sure that we're bringing that out. Let's start this. We'll work our way through. Try that once again. So here we go. 1, 2, and 1, and 2. So first of all, let's just take that 4-bar phrase starting at measure 5. As we're cramming in a lot of eighth notes, watch that we don't fall into the trap of going, yeah, I've got a lot to do, and we get louder and louder and louder and louder. Really keep it laid back here. Very, very, make it sound like it's the easiest thing in the world. Let me hear just 4 bars, measure 5 to measure 9. 1, 2, and 1, 2. Fantastic. Let me hear measure 7, big beat 2. So right on the 3rd quarter of the bar. What I'm interested in is just sorting out our articulations. I want to hear ba-da-bum, long, short, bum. Just those 3 notes. So starting on the 3rd quarter of 7 and stopping on the downbeat of 8. 1, 2, and 1. Once again. 1, 2, and 1. Really exaggerate how short our staccato is. We can even be shorter on that. And remember, watch our dynamics. We come up a little bit here. At measure 10, we're going to come right back to mezzo forte. Measure 9, we're going to be right back to mezzo forte. Same thing again, just those 3 notes. 1, 2, and 1. Okay, so let's go back to measure 5 now. When we have this figure in the melody, lift a little bit on the tie. Rather than so lift a little bit on the back end of the tie. Here we go. Measure 5. 1, 2, 1, and 2. seconds and thirds starting at measure 9. Measure 9. And 1, 2, and 1, and 2. Big thing is just locking into that groove of the music. As we're getting comfortable with this, if there's some wrong notes, let that be okay. Focus on the groove, focus on the rhythms. Measure 9. 1, 2, just 2 and 3. Very, very nice. That's great. Let me hear first and seconds at measure 5. Keeping it to a gentle mezzo forte beat. 2, 1, and 2. Good. Watch that as we have staccato notes, watch that without rushing to fill in the gap. Let the silence be there. Make us wait. Once again. 1, 2, and 1, and 2. Good. Yeah, very nice, guys. Okay, everybody, measure 5. 1, 2, 1, and 5. Could I hear, let's do our thirds, rather, starting at measure 21, which is the bar after the second ending, and seconds starting at measure 29. So starting those different spots together. What I'm interested in is just matching our articulations. Here we go. So thirds starting at measure 21 and seconds starting at measure 29. Here we go. And everybody playing together. 1, 2, and 1, and 2. Watch it. Build up. We're really connecting through. Watch that. We're not bum, 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 bum. Don't let them get similar. Really be insistent with the with the legato notes. So seconds, we're starting right at 29. And so we're not waiting for thirds to finish, we're playing all the way. We've got the same two. Here we go. 1, 2, and 1, and 2.
Seconds and thirds right now?
Yes, seconds and thirds. So thirds starting at measure 21, seconds starting at measure 29. There we go. 1, 2, and 1, and 2. So when we've got that figure, I want you guys to drive the bus. Watch that we're not being nice to the people with all the eighth notes. Make sure we're keeping the groove going, and they'll figure it out. Let me hear pick up to 21 for the first time. Here we go. So this is the last beat of the second ending. 1, 2, and 1, and 2. So, if this were a swing piece, we'd be going ba-da, 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 being a ragtime, ba-bum, ba-bum. Every note we want to be really clear with our eighth note, ba-bum, ba-bum. So don't let it shift into a swing style. Ba-bum, ba-bum. Very deliberate and pointed with the articulations on the eighth notes. Once again, same spot.
Which was where?
That pick up to 21. So and that 21 is 2 bars after 20. Figure that one out.
The 20's both endings. The last note of the second ending.
Yeah. So it's right on the last beat. Yeah. Right on the last beat of our second ending. 1, 2, and 1, and 2. Thirds, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Now, if we can drag the bus as far as the dynamic, too. Watch that we're not coming up to their dynamic, challenge them with it through mezzo point. Last time. Same spot. 1, 2, 1, and 2. Coda at the end of measure 19, we skip directly to our coda. The last bar, 2 staccato quarters. So let's start, pick up to 17, please, for the last time. So taking the coda. Pick up to 17, taking the coda. 1, 2, and 1, and 2. Okay, so watch that. Let me just hear our coda bar. Right on the coda. 2, 1, and 2. And up to 1 and 2. Pick up to 17, taking the coda. Pick up to 17, and we'll take the 1, 2, 1, and 2. Make sure we're short on our downbeat as well as that second beat. Right, we'll come back and run this one through, but let's go to Sycamore. So into again. Oh, there's some ugly stuff. 1, 2, 1, and 2. So when we go to straight quarter notes, think about really cutting your dynamics in half. At measure 5, the first 2 bars, all you guys. Next 2 bars, all the seconds. So make sure that we're really making a big difference with our dynamic there. Let's start right at measure 5. Now, one thing about our tempo, when we've got the 8th notes, is actually generally not where we're slowing down. We're slowing down at the end. Ba, 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 ba. Watch that we don't wait after the long notes. Ba, 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 ba. Watch that we keep on feeling that motion through those 8 notes. Keep on that subdivision, keep on moving through the, especially our tied notes when we're coming off on the ends. Let's, right on measure 5. 1, 2, and 1, and 2. not waiting after the dot is quartered. Let's start right on the pickup into 9. Pickup to 9. 1, 2, and 1, let's start at measure 21, please. So same, primarily just for our dynamics. This one we're really sitting in nicely. Just watching our, when we've got the melody or the harmony to that and when we've got the backing part. So basically when we've got the quarter notes, take it back and pick up to 21. The thirds have to pick up. 1, 2, 1, and 2. Let's start, pick up to measure 33, and we'll take the second end. Pick up 33, taking the second. 1, 2, and 1, first ending, so we don't take the repeat when we go back on the DS, we go immediately to the coda. Okay, we've got 5 minutes left. Let's run both of these so we can get comfy with both. So let's start with the strenuous light. With a big group like this, everything we can do to help with the clarity is going to be a good thing. Keep the eighth notes very pointed. When we've got staccato quarters, keep them very, very short. So just going through our roadmap again here for the strenuous life, we have our repeat. We take the first ending, go back to measure 5. Then we take the second ending, continue forward. At the end of 36, we repeat back to measure 21. We go through, take our second ending, and then we take our DS, which takes us back again to measure 5. And then we play through to the end of measure 19, where we take our coda straight to our 2 short chords. Clear as mud? Here, from the top.
It's really hard when the contrast on the page increases very suddenly. Every time you get to the right side.
Black bars on there, like every time there's fast.
So just a quick run through our roadmap here. So we have our first section. We play through to the end of measure 1820 in our first ending. We repeat back to measure 5. Play through, take our second ending. We play through our next section through to measure 36, the first ending. Repeat back to 21. And then we take our second ending and we take the DS going all the way back to 5. And then right before our first ending, at the end of measure 19, we go directly to the chorus. So exactly the same roadmap as the first. All right. nicely done. And it's a lot of long playing, so pretty good for you with the chops too. So now we've got 10 minutes to recover.
That's right.
And then we get to do it well.
Thank you for that.
Great work.
I wondered if we could take a couple of minutes, just maybe talk trombone for 10. And I'm looking at Dave Reed, bass trombones for Calgary Phil, of course, and Jim, and maybe Gareth, you want to have a hand in it as well. But just in terms of, I recognize that we haven't had this event in a couple of years, and maybe there's just questions around, you know, what are the different trombones in here? Perhaps what kind of method book should I be getting, or perhaps just different things along that road. Or anything come to mind offhand as we a minute or so for that? Do we want to talk maybe briefly just to the different, like there's a tenor trombone with an F attachment, I don't know, something like that, and I'm just
Sure.
in
I
terms
mean, do you mind if I just hold up your horn for a second here? Okay. So, obviously, two very different instruments, except they're two very much the same. In that they're tenor trombones. They're B-flat instruments, all in the same key, everything. This instrument is meant for playing in symphony orchestras mostly, but you know, it's made its way into concert bands and a lot of other uses. And so it's a little bigger instrument, and of course, it adds all this extra tubing here, which you can get instruments this same size that look like that don't have a trigger on them as well. They're just not as common nowadays. It used to be that because early valves tended to be pretty stuffy, that first trombone players in orchestras, for instance, used to like to play the straight trombone because it was just more free-blowing and the high range was easier and everything. When the valves got better, and we just discovered that this adds a lot of possibilities. So first of all, what it does is it puts the instrument in F. Now, it's not an F trombone, truly, because an F trombone would have to have a longer slide. But it does give you some lower notes. But the main difference is, you know, and I was bugging everybody in the warm-up to avoid their trigger for a while, because it's important to stay in touch with the outer positions. But, I mean, obviously, that's a lot easier, you know, for certain passages. In fact, Dave and I were playing the opera this week, and just talking about different kinds of trombones. It's opera by an Italian composer, Giuseppe Verdi, and he actually would the practice in Italy at the time he was writing. This is Traviata. Was to write for valve trombones. And so we have some passages that these come in handy and all of that. And we actually have an instrument playing as well. Tom, our tuba player, plays an instrument that's kind of a contrabass valve trombone called the cimbasso. And so it matches the trombone color quite a bit. So anyway, the trombone has evolved this way so that the F attachment is a pretty useful tool. And of course, originally trombones were in various keys, and we still have that to some degree. I occasionally play an alto trombone, E flat, higher than this. The old bass trombones were in like the key of F usually, or sometimes G. Sometimes E flat, I think, as well, right? A little bit.
Rarely, yes, sometimes. There was one E-flat bass trombone made once that had a reciprocating slide, where as the front slide moved out, there was a slide in the back that moved out to make it possible to reach the longer positions. And apparently it blew very well, but it was very cumbersome and hard to keep both slides working well, so it kind of got discontinued. If I were to say something about bass trombone and how it's evolved, because bass trombone has really evolved a lot in the last few decades. Really since the 1970s and 80s, it changed a lot. This instrument that I'm playing here today is a bass trombone, even though it looks very much like a tenor. It's a 562 board bass trombone with a single valve. And up until the 1960s, there was no such thing as a double valve bass trombone. A lot of the players don't realize that. the players would use the F valve, and as Jim points out, it doesn't make it a true F trombone because it has a B flat slide. So when I'm playing on a single valve bass trombone, I run out of positions after 6. So we have the 7 on a B flat trombone, but when we have the F, and we are out of slide. So what the old school players did was they would have this long E tuning, and most of the newer single valve trombones don't even have that, which is really a shame. There are some student model horns that don't give you that, right? Which gives you the option of playing in flat E tuning. Now, the difference between flat E tuning and E flat tuning is that the trigger, it doesn't give you an E flat, it gives you a flat E, which makes first position useless on the valve, unless you want to play a really flat E. What it gives you, right around the point where you play a really high altissimo E flat, right at that point, you can play a low E flat. And then you have a D right in third, a D flat in sharp fifth, C in sharp sixth, and you have your elusive low B. So the awkwardness of that was when there were quick changes between having to play with a low B and then technical passages that didn't, is that the players would have to have time to pull. So right around the late 50s, I think Ed Kleinhammer of Chicago Symphony was one of the first that came up with the idea of putting a second valve. And Greg, just show them your trombone here. This is a new Yamaha Doug Yo model, and it has a detachable second valve, which is kind of an extension of the idea that that Ed Kleinhammer came up with it when he put the detachable second valve here. This one is very cleverly built into the thing. So you can, when you want the lightness of a single valve bass trombone, that Yamaha gives you that option. But you can add a second valve that gives you the extra tubing to play the low B natural without having to go all the way to 7, right? And it doesn't have the option of D tuning or E flat tuning.
You can buy an extra slide.
You can buy an extra slide. What is it tuned in now? E flat with both valves.
D.
Oh, D.
Yeah,
So you can make you can get a shorter slide.
Yeah.
Can you get an E slide on it? Because that comes in really handy for Bartok's concerto orchestra. You've all heard of some of you have, maybe some of you haven't. Bartok wrote a concerto. Now, Bela Bartok was a great Hungarian composer, and he was commissioned by the Boston Symphony to write concerto for orchestra, and he wrote a couple of really cool glissando passages for the trombone that has a bass trombone glissando starting on a low B natural and going to an F. Because he was writing for the F bass trombone that Jim was referring to, which had a longer slide and had a handle. Sometimes I come out to the orchestra playing a G bass, which is a British variant, slightly shorter, but the same idea of extending the slide with a handle. And he thought the Americans were using that instrument, but they weren't. So when it got premiered, that glissando from B to F got called for, the bass trombonist just went. The conductor said, "It's supposed to be B to F." Not on my horn. I can't play a B to an F. I can play a B to a flat E, or I can play a C to an F. Take your pick, right? But nowadays we have double valves where we can kind of fake it. Of course, the real proper way to do it is to get a long trombone, or Edwards Music Company. For those of you who don't know who Edwards Company is, it's a high-end. It's kind of like the Cadillac of the Getson Company. You know, Cadillacs are really fancy Chevrolets, basically. And Edwards are really fancy Getsons. They make a Bartok trombone that has one purpose only, and that's playing the glissando in a concerto orchestra, where it's just a double slide, and you can play that bliss. So it solves an age-old problem of being able to fit that glissando. But anyway, the advantage of some of these old horns is that they have a really beautiful warm sound. And I just recently found this, discovered in the attic of a brass salesman and repair technician, Ken Schultz, and he kindly sold it to me. So I now have another bass trombone in my collection, just to add to it.
Do you want to point out how you tuned that one? Like, I mean, just fine tune it, because you got
Oh yes, that's something that Nathan pointed out. It's a very interesting thing. Kahn, back in the 1950s, came up with the idea of, instead of having a tuning slide here, which interrupts the conical flare of the instrument, because it has to have a cylindrical section, and this part, for the warmest sound, needs to be fully conical. So they came up with the idea of a J-bend. You notice it gets slightly bigger through here, and then it continues its conical taper through here. So there is no tuning slide, no main tuning slide. So Con had to figure out a way to put a tuning slide on one like this, so they came up with this idea of putting the tuning slide in the playing slide. So I turned this thing, which they called it the very fancy name, the upper wheel. And the upper wheel enables you to lengthen the slide in case you need to pull your slide out. And it has quite a range, so it can put me gets flatter and flatter. I find that a lot of orchestras back then, pitch standards, we all think of A440 as the everlasting standard for pitch, but it really has not been. In the Baroque era, they were tuning A at like 425 to 430, and that pitch crept up. So one would assume at some point they came through 440 and they just kept going higher and higher and higher. And the French and British, by the end of the 19th century, early 20th century, were all the way up to 452. And I actually have a G bass trombone that's tuned to that. I can't play it with anyone because I would sound terrible. But I need a piano that tunes itself up. But at some point they decided, the singers, I think, were pushing back, saying, we can't hit those high Cs because they're too high. And they pushed back, and then for a while the pitch standard went to 439. So I think this instrument was probably built, and a lot of the old cons, you barely pull out your slide at all. So I come out about a millimeter, and it seems to be perfect. But anyway, that's a creative solution to allow a J bend to happen and still have an instrument that's tunable. Any other questions about anything trombone or bass trombone?
What year is that, Bill?
1952. So it's older than me by more than a decade. That's all I'm going to say.
There's a great story that a couple of people early on with that Bartok list convinced the person sitting next to them to push their tuning slide in for them as they were playing the glissando. Which is kind of a scary idea.
I pushed the horn away from my face. I got really working hard, but I guess if I sanded it down and greased it up, I could get you to stand behind me, Jim. Push it in. I also had the idea, I don't know how it's out. Try it with me, Greg. Greg Burns, by the way. Works for St. John's Music, wonderful trombone player who's now playing some bass trombone, and he sounds fantastic. So, big hand for Greg Burns. Just play a low F when I get to the end of my list. Okay. I thought it was a, ready? So that's another solution. So I can hire an assistant to play one note for me. Play the hard list on this one. But, yeah.
Thanks so much, guys. That's wonderful. Yeah, great. I feel like maybe if we did a 5 minutes sort of bathroom break or whatever, and then came back and offered a short performance kind of thing. Does that sound okay for everyone? Okay, quick breather, and yeah, and then have your music in order: the 2 anthems and the ragtimes. Awesome.
If it wasn't for all this stuff, I'd play some notes. But we looked around at all this Doug Sparks. Oh, yes. Apparently, he went to play the good.
Second place, he flat and I started that would have been so nice. It's kind of cool, like, you can relate all the positions to a position you already know, right? So like I started like high class. Right in the pocket. Always very well used. Oh yeah. It's a 1952 instrument that Kenny found it in his attic. In his attic. Yeah, he didn't know he had it. Dana Kalkinen actually discovered it. and he told me about it, so I went and looked at it. You can barely move the slide. Derek Berg did some wonders to it. Ideally, he said, see, it's all bent where? Oh, well, you can see the damage. Yeah, it was crushed in places and beat up. Yeah, but he said there's some minor red rot. He said to really make the slide perfect. Just try the slide. And Derek worked on it for a while and got the dents out, and I've kind of worked it in a bit and put some water-based brass polish on the inside of it. Used a drill to polish it with a buffer. Yeah, you get those, the flexible cleaning tubes with the brush and the little puffy thing. Oh yeah. You get some right water-based, put that in and then put the drill and go up and down the tubes. It polishes the inside. That made a big difference because I think I took away some of the red rot corrosion, some of the pitting, right? And so. Oh, great. Oh, he's getting red rot? Yeah, it's a scourge, right? I think I got a little bit of red rot here too. But you know what? I sold it for $1,000. And I thought, you know, all these are good. That's not bad. Yeah, for a vintage horn. You know, and it's just something. It's got a nice warm sound that I'll use probably for Brahms and Schubert. I'm stopping after this, and meanwhile I've got my old 62H that I picked up on eBay. It was a wreck. I got it pretty cheap, but it was a wreck. The valves were leaking like a bitch, and the slide was crushed. It was bad, but anyway, Noah Gladstone is restoring it for me, rebuilding it. Yeah, he's rebuilding it, and it's going to cost me a fortune. But if if his predictions hold true, it's going to be a real nice horn when it's done. He's putting new valves on. He said the valves were too far gone. People tried to fix it by fluffing them and took too much metal off. And he said they'd never be able to replate the valves to get a tight fit. So there's a company called Instrument Innovations that makes aftermarket valves that they're the same. Like they basically are clones of the old. You can either get box style or con style, and they're like $200 each. So I'm getting 2 new valves on it, and then I'm getting instead of the stupid roller thing that is useless, I'm getting a paddle, finger paddle, and then the option of the E slide or a D slide. So then I could do the Bartok bliss, just pop the valve right at the end. So you could tune it in E. So that's yeah. I will then officially have way too many horns.
I was gonna say I had to get a drum set. I had to move 5 tubas.
Tripping over tubas.
The 2 of them are in the basement.
He's sneaking them in.
Yeah, but you're one on horn, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's like, I had no idea you crossed over to the dark side.
Yeah, well, Rocky Mountain needed a bass drum for the last show, so I've been playing it pretty much exclusively for the last month and a half.
Cool.
Good, man. Well,
That's what I was just.
If you ever need someone, I'll keep
we'll work it up.
Yeah. We did some stuff that I probably could have used for bass.
It's fun to play though, isn't it? It's fun to play. It's very fun to play.
I always wondered how it worked with
And Long and McQuaid, who have given us a few trombone-specific door prizes. So we want to say a special thank you to Don Klassen and Music Direct for a couple of Rubank books here. And Long and McQuaid, well, I'll show you that in a minute. So maybe I'll get sort of, here, do you mind, Kayla, just taking a ticket out of the pot here and get you to read that nice and loud. And this is for first two. Grab two. Well, that might be for both then. Let's do that. Here we go. Okay.
428038.
038 at the end. 428038.
Right here.
Awesome. There we go. Okay. Sorry, walking around here with that. Okay. Well, there we go. So there's some solos in one book and some really cool fundamentals in the other. And we've got two other Rubank books here, and this ticket is 428037. 03. Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. All right. Thanks. All right. We'll work on how we put our ticket to the box. So here, I'll just say what these are here. We've got kind of a cool, it's a metronome, it's a touchscreen metronome with some cool sounds and rhythms as well there. And the other one is a mouthpiece. And I believe this is modular, so you can actually take off the receiver part and change out the top and whatnot. It's kind of neat. So for the touchscreen metronome, there we go. Do you want to read the number nice and loud?
428011.
011. Woo-hoo. Hey. Awesome. Good. Great. And you want to take, we'll just make sure it's one.
428025.
025. There we go. Woo. Awesome.
All right.
Great. Awesome. Great. Okay. So gotten to our performance part of this. I'm going to stuff this together here. And yeah, so just a couple of other thank yous. And maybe you saw the screen sort of showing different people, or rather companies. And we want to thank also the Stampede Show Band for helping us out. They're the ones who get us our t-shirts made. And yeah, let's move on. And we'll say some thank yous again at the end. But let's start with our mini performance. And so welcome back to the parents and families who are they've done. Thank you. And we'll begin with our two anthems. So maybe we'll have our audience rise while we do Play O Canada, and then we'll be playing the Ukrainian national anthem in solidarity with Ukraine. All right. to submit any kind of extra music, whether it was for this evening virtually or in person. And so we had a trombone quartet. Malcolm Forsyth was the composer, Quartet 74. This is the second movement, so you'll hear it on the screen. Sorry, Calgary Trombone Quartet will be Mark Harding, Nikki McCaslin, myself, and Greg Roberts. Yep. There's a lot of work involved in
I don't need this, and then I don't need this because I'm far enough away. So, when we were discussing what to do, and we realized it had to be a fairly limited program, it's, just after the couple of years we've all had, we thought it was nice to celebrate, people that are struggling in one way or another, or have struggled in the past. So, of course, we were glad to feature the Ukrainian national anthem under these circumstances. And after the events of a couple of summers ago, to recognize an African-American composer in these times, I think, and to realize that that music can be a really healing thing and can celebrate the diversity that we're so proud of in North America. So it's great to play the music of Scott Joplin today, and it's a composer that should be recognized because he was quite a famous composer in his day. So I hope you all will enjoy this music.
We'll be playing two works by Scott Joplin. The first is Strenuous Life, and then the second one.
maybe one last time, I'd just like to say thank you to a few people. Thanks again, James Scott, for leading warm-ups, for bringing what you always do to this year. It's been awesome. Thank you. Gareth, thank you so much for directing today. Wonderful. Dave, thank you so much for just explaining so much. That was so cool. I appreciated that so much. Really, thank you. We have a number of players who couldn't make it this evening. As you saw, 3 out of the 4 on the quartet on the screen there had other gigs and other things they had to be at this evening. And that maybe goes back to the, people are getting back into things again. And so we can appreciate that and are happy for them that that's working out too. But a few others that weren't here tonight. Christine Steller always makes our cool logo designs, and I always want to say thank you to her because she always, without hesitation, says, "Sure, I'll do that, no problem, you bet, I'll help you out." And it's really appreciative on that element. Calgary Association for the Development of Music Education, that is CADME in short, makes this event possible, so we have to give them a big hand as well. Thank you. Ryan Hancock and the Stampede Show Band also help us out a ton, and so a special thanks to them as well. As mentioned before, we have Don Clausen in Music Direct, as well as Matt Ferguson, our contact from Long and McQuaid, who helped us out with door prize stuff. So again, thank you to them. Yes. That's Mark Kaminsky and Robert Hebert, who've been helping us with the technology side of things. I'm no good. Thank you so much for your help. We had Aberhart trombone students here early to make sure that these chairs were set up, and they, I'm sure, know that they're going to also help us clean up at the end too. So let's have those guys ahead. Thank you so much, guys. We're getting there. International Trombone Week, which is online, has been super supportive of our event and made sure that the word gets out there too, and so we thank them as well. And lastly, but certainly not least, too, families, parents, and whatnot, who encourage your kids and get them out here and help them out, and get them an instrument in their hand and the stuff to make it happen. We're all music teachers in different ways, and that is gold. That's the thing. So thank you to you, all of you, for your help and support that way. There is one last announcement that is big, and we have some European guests coming to town next week. And they will be here in this space on Friday, April 15th, okay, at 7 p.m. So we encourage you to come back and listen to them. This is a trombone quintet by the name of Crossbones, and they've sent us a virtual greeting tonight. So we're going to finish up with that tonight, and it'll be up on the board behind you, and this is Crossbones.
Dear Canadian friends, we are Crossbones, trombones from Belgium, and next month we will be in Calgary for some concerts. We are looking forward to meet you all there. See you soon. Greetings from Belgium.
assassination and the fact that it